All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. You got to forgive me for my sore throat once again, but I will not be deterred as I want to talk about some Major League Baseball today, and most importantly, with the MLB season right around the corner, who has what it takes to win the National League Central. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals won this division last year, and they're, of course, looking to make it consecutive NL Central titles. It's year number two for manager Oliver Marmol. And you look at this Cardinals lineup and this Cardinals team as a whole, and they're built to do some things and, of course, possibly do some damage in October. You think about Paul Goldschmidt, and he's looking for another MVP year. He comes into this season as a reigning NL MVP, 35 years of age, but that has not slowed down the bat and glove of Goldie. And then, of course, his tag team partner in Nolan Arenado, who himself could have won the award last year. Now, of course, there are going to be some questions for St. Louis heading into this season, replacing two legends in both Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. Um, we saw St. Louis go out and pick up catcher Wilson Contreras, and I think that's going to be big right there. You look at Contreras, he's not Molina in his prime behind the plate, don't get me wrong, but he is no slouch. And he can also give you something at the plate as well hitting. 41-year-old Adam Wainwright still has something in the tank. And I look at Wainwright, the guy just knows how to pitch. Can Steven Matz stay healthy for the Cardinals in their rotation? That's going to be big. You have Miles Mikolas as well as Jordan Montgomery in this rotation. It could be solid. And for me, St. Louis is going to once again be tough in the Central. Now, the Milwaukee Brewers, they're prepping for this season, hopeful to make the playoffs, but they still have to wonder what could have been in 2022. The Brewers were in contention for a postseason spot for the entire season, only to falter down the stretch, which led to St. Louis winning the Central. And in the process, Milwaukee also missed out on the final wild card spot by one game as that went to the Philadelphia Phillies, who went on to win the pennant. And again, like I said, if you're Milwaukee, you have to ask yourselves, what could have been? That could have been you. Now, for Craig Counsell, he's set to begin his 8th year as the manager of the Brewers, as he is entrenched as the winningest manager in the franchise's history. But will Counsell be able to lead Milwaukee to their 5th postseason appearance in the last 6 years? It's going to come down to pitching for Milwaukee first and foremost. And Corbin Burns continues to be one of the better starting pitchers in MLB. But how long will he continue to wear a Brewers uniform? And I say that because things appear to be a little icy between Burns and the Brewers after his arbitration hearing this off season. Obviously, he's got a couple of years left before he can hit free agency, but you cannot deny that Burns is one of the better pitchers in baseball based off of what he is able to do every fifth day on the mound. You're talking about a guy who won the NL Cy Young Award back in 2021. He has some electric stuff. He had 243 strikeouts, last season. And I think he's going to once again be in the mix as one of the better pitchers in baseball. It's not just about Burns in that rotation for Milwaukee. You also have Brandon Woodruff. And it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to flirt with reaching 200 innings for the first time in his career. Now, Eric Lauer won a career high 11 games last year for Milwaukee. Will he continue to improve? And then you got a guy like journeyman starter Wade Miley. He's pitched for 8 different MLB teams, and this is set to be his second go around for Milwaukee. Miley's now 36, and of course, you have to wonder how much more that he does he have left in the tank. Now, Milwaukee starting rotation will once again keep them in playoff contention, but what about their lineup? And I say that because it's feast or famine for the Brew Crew, as they were second in home runs in the National League last season, but they were 10th or tied for 10th in batting average. You got Rowdy Tellez and Willie Adames. They're going to provide some pop, but Milwaukee also is hopeful that Christian Yelich can put together another solid season. You know, after he had that huge setback with that kneecap injury several years ago, it just took the life out of that team when that happened. But you know, the Brewers, they have enough pitching. It's going to be interesting to see if they can find enough hitting to get to the playoffs. Now, after consecutive losing seasons, should there be some optimism on the north side for the Chicago Cubs? Now, David Ross is entering his fourth year as a manager of the Cubs. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. And a big blow for the Cubbies is they lost catcher Wilson Contreras to St. Louis. Now, we did see Chicago go out there and sign outfielder Cody Bellinger. And obviously, the Cubs are hopeful that a change of scenery will help Bellinger to rekindle the magic that made him the National League MVP in 2009. But since then, his productivity at the plate has dipped immensely. The Cubs also picked up Trey Mancini, and Trey Mancini is just a guy that you want on your team because he just gets it done. And those are guys that you need when you're trying to get back on track and become a winning team again. Is another solid season on the horizon for outfielder Ian Happ. You got to wait and see. And then after starting pitcher Jameson Taillon won 14 games last year as a member of the New York Yankees, he cashed in with the Cubs as he got a 4-year deal. Now, Marcus Stroman, of course, was a big free agent signing for the Cubs last year. He was up and down. You never know what you're going to get from Stroman consistently, and that's got to be the thing for both he and the Cubs. He has to be more consistent on the mound. It's going to be interesting to see if the Cubs are going to be upbeat enough to keep up in the Central. Now, you look at the Pirates and both the Reds. I think it's going to be abysmal years for both of these teams, and it's unfortunate because they have long, storied histories along with long and loyal fan bases that have stayed by them. But for Pittsburgh, it's gone from bad to worse as they enter 23 and 23, sitting on consecutive losing seasons as far as 100 losses in the last 2 years. And as things are expected to once again be bad in Western PA, will they be able to avoid losing 100 games or more for the third consecutive year? And if that was the case, it would be the first time that that happened since 1954. This is year number 4 for manager Derek Shelton. And if things don't get turned around, he could be one of the first managers fired this year, in my opinion. Well, outfielder Brian Reynolds be able to carry this Pirates offense, and he is one of the few bright spots if you're a Pirates fan right now. Now, Pittsburgh had one of the worst pitching staffs in the National League last season, which included the fact that no Pirates starter even came close to winning 10 games. And with that said, I think it's going to be another long summer for the Pirates. And if you're a Pirates fan, one thing I can tell you is come July, the Steelers will be reporting for training camp. And in regards to the Reds, they head into the season licking their wounds as well. They lost 100 games last year, but it was the first time in 40 years that the proud Reds franchise had that happen. And of course, you had to expect that after the fire sale that they had after the 2021 season. But of course, the Reds now, they're looking to avoid losing 100 games again, obviously. But if it were to happen, it would be the first time in franchise history. And you think about it as far as consecutive years where the Reds have lost 100 games, you think about it, the Reds franchise goes back to the 1800s. Now, the Reds need to find a way to improve offensively, first and foremost, as they were near the bottom of most statistical categories in the NL last year. Will Jonathan India recapture the magic that made him the NL Rookie of the Year in 2021? We got to see. This is the final year of Joey Votto's contract with the Reds. He's going to be 40 in September, and if you have to wonder if this is going to be his curtain call in MLB. We got to wait and see. The health of catcher Tyler Stevenson is going to be important as he only appeared in 50 games last year for the Reds. But nonetheless, if you're Cincinnati, just like Pittsburgh, you got to try to find a way to compete in this division. It's one of those where I feel like the Central is the Cardinals' division to lose. They are the best run organization in the Central. They do have the best team. They have the best mixture as far as their pitching and their lineup. And it's been like that for a while. Milwaukee, again, it's going to come down to whether or not the Brew Crew is able to get enough offense because they are going to have the pitching. Chicago will improve, and then of course Pittsburgh and Cincinnati will bring up the rear. But at the end of the day, I think that the National League Central will once again be the Cardinals' division to lose. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, If you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Excuse me. You can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care, and thanks once again for bearing up with my sore throat. And as always, thanks for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.